This is your host, Rob. Of course, I'm in the building. My man Rec is on vacation once again, but we're going to continue our topic from yesterday, which is how to break depression. All right, this is part 2 to the segment. In the previous segment, we talked about what is depression. Depression is a serious mood condition that can affect the body and in turn affect the mind. It can also be induced by diet, lack of exercise, meditation, or lack of time alone to clear your mind. And there's so many people out there that have experienced being in depression. I've been in depression, or you know someone that's been in depression. So let's go ahead, hop right into it. I'll pick it up where we left off. I believe we left off on reviewing the emotional scale. The main thing to remember about the emotional scale, and I mentioned this in the previous video, this is for those who may have tuned in this particular episode, that we were talking about how when people get down and sad, okay, which is a level 22 on this chart, and it reads fear, grief, depression, powerlessness, and victim or victimhood is what I like to say. All the way up to 1, joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation. And the issue is that people try to go from 0 to 60, or in this case, 22 to 1, without covering the middle, without climbing the ladder of the emotional ladder to have solid footing enough to when you finally do reach a level 1 consciousness or way of thinking or way of feeling, that you don't fall right back down. Okay? So we left off, I believe we left off around rage, right after hatred. And we said that to take hatred and rage to, my apologies, to revenge, which is 18, not rage, to revenge, you think about what was in, or what, or who, I should say, what or who may have made it complicated for you to reach a goal, or for you to heal, or for you to do whatever, and you pretty much feed that thought. You know, modern day or uneducated people, they try to tell you that, you know, it's if you get angry because someone says something bad about you, it's bad for you to get angry. Well, if someone is talking bad about you and make you feel self-conscious, then if you look on the emotional scale, around 22 and 21, at the very bottom, insecurity and guilt and worthlessness, it is a natural reaction of the soul to begin the migration back up this emotional scale. So I'm one that says that, you know, you shouldn't fight the emotion. In fact, feed the emotion so you can grab onto it firmly, and then focus your intention or your thought patterns towards the next highest level on the rung of this particular ladder, or such cool spin on this particular guidance scale. So from revenge, you have to go into anger. So after you pull out who or what, and you start having thoughts of revenge about that person, and what I want to stress this: when you have thoughts of revenge about getting at somebody or getting at a situation, you never focus it on the person, all right? You focus it on what you can do to outdo that person, not to hurt that person, but what you can do to better yourself, to put you in a better position that lands you above where that particular person was trying to keep you at a previous state. So just remember that. Don't focus your anger or your rage on anyone, or revenge in this particular case. But you use that as a tool to work yourself up to level 17, which is anger, okay? Now, once you've gotten angry, and if you notice on the scale, the colors start to change. That's because at anger, this is the breakthrough point of being in the lower levels of emotional existence. Okay, so then when you go from level 17 or you reach up from level 17 up to level 16, discouragement, you're starting to dull the anger, all right? That's why it starts to fade into from red into orange on that particular phase. So after you get angry and you thought about revenge, after you thought about revenge and you got angry about it, then naturally you're going to start feeling discouraged, like, well, there's nothing I can do. Okay? And it's funny because certain rungs on this ladder automatically trigger the next one. Certain ones you have to actually think and pull your thoughts together to really grab onto it. But as far as discouragement is really a buildup of the previous levels. And basically what you're going to do at that point is look down at the previous levels and all the information you gathered up to that point, and it should really begin to put you into number 11, overwhelmed, but it will definitely make you feel discouraged. Like, this is too much for me, So once you grasp that particular emotion of being discouraged or discouragement, then you go over to the next level, which will be 15, which is blame. All right? Now, my suggestion is don't blame yourself. All right? And it's okay to blame people, but don't act on your blame. It's better to blame the situation and the circumstances that happened and how it happened than to blame yourself or to blame someone else. Okay? And when you blame yourself, you pull yourself down. When you blame someone else, that means you're putting someone else in control of your life. And that's not what Inner Source Radio is about. That's not what your life is about, or anyone else's life on this planet is about. Us as human beings were never built to bow down to other people. Yes, they were leaders, but to give up all of your power and will, your natural given or your spiritually given sovereignty is against who and what you are. So once you get into blame, and it really doesn't matter, well, actually, and it does matter that you don't blame yourself or anyone else, but once you get into the blame mode, reflect back on everything else and you'll begin to worry. All right? Mainly reflect back on discouragement and blame, discouragement and blame, discouragement and blame, and now create worry. Okay? All right, now discouragement, blame, and doubt built together pushes you up to level 13. My fault. Worry, blame, and discouragement pushes you up to level 13, which is doubt. All right? Now, doubt can be reinforced by the previous levels up under that. If you notice that every time we take a step up, you need to reflect back down to push you up to the next level, while primarily focusing on the previous level and the level below that, and mixing the level above it together and keeping that as your target. So now we've moved into the mind frame of doubt, of thinking, it probably ain't going to happen, or what have you. Now you're primed to move into the next level, which is disappointment. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm walking through this is because when I first got this, Abraham Hicks didn't exactly say what to do. They kind of gave you a brief understanding, but not exactly what to do. And I'm just going to take the time to explain this to you, because if I can get enough information out there for you guys to be empowered enough to control your emotional guidance scale or your emotional level, then you can control anything else. To be honest with you, emotions are like the water. They go up and they go down. It's just like the ocean water, wave in, low tide, high tide. And when you're able to control those tides, you create stability in yourself, all right? And that normal stability starts when you hit the green section on this particular scale. So as you master doubt and you move into disappointment about all the stuff that happened that put you where you were, and you reflect on all of it, that'll put you in overwhelm, which is number 11. Now, I want you to notice that you have an unlucky number 13. And if you look on this scale, 13 is doubt, right? That means from 13 on down is worse. And that's probably why the number 13 is such a bad, quote-unquote, bad number, because that's the fall of most things. Even in the month, the 13th of October or whatever, is supposed to be some kind of spooky day. But see, those old wise tales and legends have concrete or have things that correspond to its particular attribute. A little bit later on, we'll talk about another number. So now we've been in disappointment, right? And we've been in overwhelmment. And the next level above that is frustration, irritation, and impatience. Now, to get from overwhelmment to frustration, irritation, and impatience, you have to take everything that you had in account, figure out where you want to go, come up with a plan, and start doing it until, and you're going to run into blocks because you're still in a lower mind frame. Start doing it and doing it and doing it until you get frustrated and impatient. And then you keep doing your plan to get yourself up. You keep doing your plan to reach your goal. You keep doing your plan. And you'll start to lose the frustration, but you still be a little pessimistic. That'll take you to level 9. All right? By this time, you've been doing it so much. So you continue to do it until it becomes boring. And then you reach level 8. Now, 8 is the infinite sign. And if you notice, between 8 and 7, which are both two special numbers, that is the middle of the emotional scale. And number 8 is supposed to be important because number 8 is the sign for infinity, right? Now, why would they put boredom at 8? That's because at 8, at level 8 on this emotional scale, you're bored, so your mind starts to stretch itself, right? Let's see. A bored kid that doesn't have any toys, say a kid doesn't have any toys, he becomes bored. What does he do? He starts, or she starts, I shouldn't just say he or she starts to use their imagination. All right? You get what I'm getting with this? Imagination. They start imagining what they can do to make their situation better. And the only reason why they couldn't do that at 22, because at that wavelength, and this I want you to, and I'll go back and explain this in more in detail, at the lower wavelength, you actually cut off layers of your thinking, layers of your creativity, layers of who you are, because you're not accepting a high enough wavelength to energize your body and your brain to accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish. And that's why it's so important that you're able to control your emotional what's the word I want to look for? Level. Because when you're down too low, you can't create anything. When you're up too high, then all these things flow to you. Not only do you think of the things, the creations, the ideas, they begin to flow to you, just like the water or the fluid that we are. We are, 70 or 76% or higher percentage of water in our body. So fluidity is the key to this. So when you get to 8 and you get bored, you start to imagine what can you do to remove this boredom, and what does that do? Move you into 7. Because now an idle mind is now moving. And it has the ability to keep moving up. And the person starts to become content with where they are because it's a lot better than where they were. As we go into 7 to the next level, which is hopefulness, that is a result of feeding your imagination and using positive affirmations, okay? And as you use these positive affirmations, including your imagination, you begin to feel hopeful. It'll start to affect your heart. Well, you know what? It's not so bad out here. In fact, I just might have a chance. So you keep feeding that until you feel like, hey, you know what? I can probably get this done. And that automatically takes you up to the next level on the emotional guidance scale, which is optimism. Now, we've crossed over at between 8 and 7. And when we crossed over, that took you from out of the lower realms, which would cause you to manifest negative things to come to you. All right? Now, I'm going to give you a brief lesson real quick about human beings, things, and the planet in general. When you break everything down, they break down into these things called atoms. Yes, they go much further, and when they go down to their lowest point, they become energy. But let's just stay at atom. And notice that Adam and Eve, are the first two beings on the planet according to the religion. But let's focus on Adam. Now, Adam has a positive pole, a negative pole, and a neutral pole. So it has a positive pole, which is a photon, and a proton. They have a negative pole, which is the electron, and it has a neutral pole. I forgot what the neutral pole is, but it has a midway that's neutral. Okay, and then in the center it has a nucleus, right, that powers the whole thing. All right. Now, I just want you to focus on the negative and the positive pole. All right, just like with the battery, you have a negative and a positive pole. Just like with anything, male and female, negative and positive pole. I know females may not want to hear this, but females are the negative pole and males are the positive pole only because, and it doesn't mean anything bad, women pull in and men push out. All right? So one energy form pulls in and one energy form pushes out. So I shouldn't use the word negative. I should say opposing poles. All right? Now, on this thing, this is where the guidance scale is, okay? So you're pushing and pulling with your negative and positive forces, okay? And we're only using the word negative because we haven't come up with another word for it. But actually push and pull forces, okay? Now, the negative pole or the negative pole, because it's a tetrapolar, I should say, it's kind of what the cross means, okay? Like you have a wavelength that goes up and down, and that's your emotional scale, right? And then you have another wavelength that you can vary your emotion to positivity, positive works, positive things, or you can vary it to the left with the severance. If you learn the tree of life, on the left-hand side you have mercy, and on the right side you have severance, right? Which means harder or whatever, and da-da-da-da-da, okay? So when you're in this point of optimism, you now can, after you pass 7 and 8, you now can weave yourself to what you want to manifest as you increase the positivity of the energy that you're outputting. And in that energy outputting, those atoms that register on that particular wavelength, whether it's severity or mercy, begin to come to attract to you, because that's kind of how electricity, electromagnetic electricity works. Okay? So we're on optimism. I got off topic, my apologies. So optimism feeds off of what I said, imagination and affirmation. All right, takes you from contentment, takes you from hopefulness to optimism. Now, you keep that formula and increase it, optimism will slowly become positive expectation. You will no longer just think it can happen. You will say it so many times until you believe it can happen. And I've heard this phrase a million times: the more a person hears something, the more a person believes it. Well, that's true. The more a person hears something, the more it gets locked into their subconscious, and they subconsciously believe it. The more positive or the more energetic, the more happier you believe in it, all right? Then you increase yourself from optimism to positive belief. And you feed that more with more positivity, and it's good to have a support group that is positively structured that can support and feed these energies coming into you, these positive vibrations, these positive thought patterns, okay? But as you get around a group of people and you get in that natural state, you're going to gravitate to those people, and you're not going to like people who are down on a lower level. And typically people on a lower level ain't going to like you at level 4 when you know, 22 and 44. I mean, 4 and 22. My apologies over here, stumbling over my words. And as you feed that even more, and your friends and family who are positive feeds that even more, you'll go up to level 3. So before I go any further, what happens if you have negative people around you? Well, you should know what happens. They'll hit you and take you down a peg, down a peg, down a peg, and down a peg, and down a peg. All right? That's kind of what that phrase means. I'm going to take you down a peg. I'm going to knock you down emotionally. Because emotion, once again, I said in the first show, emotion is energy in motion. Okay? All right, so we're now in enthusiasm, and you can hear I'm starting to lighten up myself as I go up the scale. And we feed that enthusiasm. By that time, actually, when you reflect on everything and you start seeing that you're in this thing, you're starting to grow a passion inside of yourself, a passion that will push you further than you've ever gone. So what do? You continue to envision. You continue to use affirmations. You continue to feed that positive process beyond the point that it was. Like if you're getting it 3 times a day and it got you to enthusiasm, then you want to go 6 times a day. You want to double what you're doing to feed that positive aspect inside of yourself. And that'll bring you right on up 2 levels of the passion. Now, passion is the doorway to wholeness. You see, because your passions lie in your gifts. Your gifts describe who you truly are. Let me say that again. Your passion relies in your gifts, and your gifts describe who you truly are. And when you are who you truly are, you reach level number 1, which is joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation. When you get in full alignment with you, and people say you get in alignment with Christ consciousness, or you get in alignment with Jesus, the God's will, and so on and so forth, that you experience this euphoric feeling. And I myself, I have gone to level 1. I've been on level 22 or in that lower realm a lot longer, but I have gone to level 1 before, and it is a completely different level of being. I'm not going to say thinking. I'm not going to say acting. I'm going to say being. A completely different level of person you become. You become whole. You become in balance, right? You don't react to things anymore. You control things now. If you notice, from 7 on up, it was about you using your mind, your energy, your thoughts, and your actions to control your life, or to design your life. And then positive people around you fed you, who are in alignment with where you are, and that puts you into this unlocked state of being, somewhere where, a lot of the rich don't want you to be. Because when you're in that unlocked state, when you're in that state of being that is balanced, you're not easily fooled. Going on in politics, you're not going to react. Your oneness is going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. And that's what we're about here at Inner Source Radio. We're about bringing you into wholeness, bringing you into balance, bringing knowledge to you that you can eat and use and apply on a regular basis. Now, I've done a lot of these exercises, and what I found out is that consistency is the key. And for a long time, I've known a lot of this stuff. I mean, hell, even as a human being who thinks that he or she doesn't know, you know a lot of this stuff internally. The problem is our way of thinking can limit us or leave us unlimited. So modern society is kind of set towards that, to keeping you on that lower level, to keep you from manifesting those things, and good things only manifest through good vibrations, a good state of being. So, if you have any questions about this, if you want any tips, if you need to talk to somebody, I'm always available. Shoot me an email. It should be on the Blog Talk site. We are working to expand our capabilities. We should be going on the YouTube soon, so you guys will be able to interact with us directly. And I'll be able to answer your questions the best I can. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do not know everything. But what I do know, I'm willing to share, with everyone. All right? So our goal is to always be at number one. If you go down to number 2, that's not an issue. Okay? Number 3 is not an issue. All right? All this stuff in the blue here is not an issue. The green, slightly an issue. We want you in the purple. All right? And you actually have to reflect on all of these every once in a while throughout the whole scale to remember that, hey, where I'm at right now is higher than what I was before. And that'll keep the cycle going. All right, people. Well, I hope this episode helped you out. Of course, we will be bringing you more knowledge that will definitely empower you. Know that we love and care for each and every single one of you. And we want to help you with your process. I know when me and Rec were going through our journey, or, if I can just focus on myself right now, I'll let Rec tell his story. We didn't have a lot of people in our cipher to really back us up and to really help us hone our skills and to focus on what we needed to be, how we were going to get there, So, until next time, people, this is the Inner Source Radio, and I'm your host, Ra. I love you. Peace and blessings, everyone.